welcome back. As I promised, I want to tell you about two important Irving Berlin compositions, two songs that have a fascinating story behind them. And I guess this part of the lecture is sort of infotainment. I guess this is one of those, I hate to play coy, but I think it's the best way to kind of put these stories across. The first one I want to talk to you about, Irving Berlin, as I said, was a very successful businessman, especially as the 1930s rolled on, and especially as he became more and more associated with his own Irving Berlin Publishing Company. As a result, he had a lot of friends in show business, and many of them, unlike Mr. Berlin, were Christian. Irving Berlin, of course, was Jewish, and he didn't really celebrate Christmas. He spent an awful lot of time during the holidays away from the snow, away from the weather of New York, where he usually lived, and wound up in Florida. The legend says that Irving Berlin was filling out a series of Christmas cards under a palm tree in Florida, or near one, sort of taunting his friends that he knew were suffering from a big blizzard in New York City. And what he said was something along the lines of that he was wishing them all a Merry Christmas, and at the end of some of those letters and postcards, he would write the sort of taunt, may all of your Christmases be white. From that comes the fact that Berlin was also asked to compose a song which would eventually wind up in film, Bing Crosby. White Christmas was, and still is, the single biggest selling individual song in American history. It not only won him an Academy Award, it became a holiday classic. As of the printing of the last book that I checked in, White Christmas had sold over 60 million copies, and 4 million copies of sheet music were sold in its first year. White Christmas became an American standard, most popularized by Bing Crosby. It is, again, one of the biggest selling individual 45 singles in history. And because it is a holiday record, it kind of pads its sales every single year, as people even today still purchase this song in some way, shape, or form. White Christmas kind of became such a standard that Berlin is almost forgotten as the composer of it. So here was someone who wasn't celebrating Christmas, who was sitting in Florida in the midst of a beach scenario and composing one of the great winter songs that we know. Probably, though, the other really good Irving Berlin story is about a different song. Now, during World War II, America, of course, joined World War II just a little bit later than the rest of the world. But once they did, they kind of jumped in with both feet. And one of the common forms of entertainment were radio broadcasts, were programs that were designed to be shared between families at home that could also be heard by the soldiers abroad, the ships at sea, and that sort of thing. And I guess the notion that really appealed to people, the idea that we're listening, we're almost listening in, we're enjoying this broadcast, and we know that our soldiers, our family members far away, are also enjoying it. And a woman named Kate Smith, giant of a woman, very, very powerful, big, loud person, and very, very popular singer in the 1940s, began the Kate Smith radio broadcast hour. And she had asked Irving Berlin if he could come up with some sort of a signature song for her to sing on the show that would be sort of a sign-off, a closing song that would be a way to greet the American troops and all of that stuff. And Berlin sort of thought nothing of it and said, yes, okay, I'll think about that. Well, the fact is he sort of forgot about it, and, you know, everybody has what I like to call a junk drawer at home. You know, you have that extra drawer, maybe in your kitchen, and it has, I don't know, some batteries, paper clips, pen caps, maybe a couple of recipes on index cards, that sort of thing. And you just kind of pile things in there that you forget about. And so, according to the legend, one day Kate Smith contacts Irving Berlin and says, all right, coming over for that song. And Berlin is saying, oh, geez, I completely forgot I promised her a song. I don't really have a song. I don't have anything. He does say that he thinks to himself, this kind of a piece of a doodle of a song that he had been working on, and that he had put into this drawer and sort of forgotten about. The reason being that he felt the song was sort of dull. It sort of plodded along. It didn't go anywhere melodically. It kind of stayed in the same range of notes, and he found it would be boring to people. So when Kate Smith arrives at his door, he says, well, I don't have much. I found this. I guess you know, this was supposed to be a patriotic song at one point, so I guess you can have this, but I'm sorry about how I don't think that it has a real quality, a star quality. She looks it over and she says, oh, you've just been holding out on me. This is going to be great. People are going to love it. She takes it back with her and broadcasts it in 1938 on her radio program as a closing number that she dedicates to all the American Navy personnel, particularly, and all the soldiers who are stationed away from their homes. Well, that song, called God Bless America, was probably better than Berlin thought that it would be, and has turned out to be perhaps one of the biggest American standards of all time. God Bless America, the war effort, it took off at that point, became a huge national hit. Berlin still apologizing for its lack of melodic variety. There have been some who have argued that God Bless America should be the national anthem instead of the Star Spangled Banner, and there are some that feel that it is as important a song. Again, kind of an interesting story in that this was a song that was sort of almost lost to history, and that its composer did not think particularly well of, and that he sort of gave up to someone as an afterthought in a pinch. Berlin is his story is kind of full of these legends, these little songs that he puts together and writes, and people go, oh, I guess someone had to write this song. Might as well have been Berlin. Songs like Blue Moon, which started out as sort of a slow, kind of easy ballad, and was picked up by one of the doo-wop groups in the 50s and became an upbeat kind of a rock tune. A song called Puttin' on the Ritz, which started out as a tap number for a popular stage review, wound up an 80s synth pop hit for a little while in 1984, and eventually appeared in the film Young Frankenstein. Irving Berlin's stuff is kind of everywhere. The one knock on Irving Berlin, it would seem, especially from all this time period, was that he was writing, I guess is this such a bad thing, but that he was writing for the masses. Coming back to folks like Rudolf Friml and those guys, people said, well, you know, this person is really just pandering to the most popular taste and trying to make money. There's a Peanuts cartoon where Schroeder is playing at the piano and he's playing, you know, some intense Beethoven song. And Lucy, just to kind of get under his skin, kind of comes up from behind him and whispers, hooray for Irving Berlin! And Schroeder like picks up the toy piano above his head and chases her out because he's so angry at the idea that Berlin is treated the same way as Beethoven. But Berlin's kind of our own, and as a result, I think a lot of his work is just kind of beloved and assumed to be part of sort of the American pantheon. Well, I'm trying to do these in little short, kind of easy bites this time around. We're going to get one more where I'm going to tell you about that major Berlin musical that I think you'll find interesting. So come on back for that third part, and right after this, you might be able to check out some of the Berlin music below.